It's my pleasure today to welcome Pia Mia to the Native Angelino podcast. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Tom.
Well, it's my pleasure. And, this is a little bit different than my typical guest because your demographic is, a little younger. Our skew's a little older. the really interesting thing is the technology that you employ and the way that you engage with your fan base is, really impressive. And I want to share that as much as your music and your writing with my audience.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, the way I would describe you is a storyteller. You're a musician, a writer, an actor. You've just released a book that hopefully you'll tell us a bit about a little bit later.
Yes.
Sequins and Silicone, just released, a week ago?
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, I want to hear about it. And you've got new music coming too, right?
Have new music coming. No official dates, but I'm thinking next month. So
yeah. So this is the release of your first book. So what's it been like?
I've, been so stunned with all the support. Like, you spend all this time, making music or writing the book or whatever it is, and you go to put it out and you like really don't know what's going to work or if people are going to like it. But I have been so overwhelmed with the amount of people that have been buying the book and posting about it and sharing it with their friends. And so I'm just trying to be present in the moment and not miss what's happening right now.
Well, I'll tell you, I ordered a couple of extra copies to send as gifts and they're delayed. So Amazon was, I don't know if it's sold out or just not in one warehouse or not, but so congratulations.
Oh no, we need to get Amazon on the phone.
So what I would love to do, I've read the articles and I've heard a little bit from you, but your story is really unique. So if you wouldn't mind starting from coming to Los Angeles, how old were you? Just let's start from the basics.
Okay. So I started singing when I was 8 in school plays and school musicals. And that's kind of where I first found my love for music and performing. And so I kind of, after I was 8, I just kind of started performing anywhere that I could around Guam, which is where I'm from. Mm-hmm. And when I turned 13, I had just, I had stuck to it. I had been performing. My first job was singing for Japanese weddings on Guam. And I had just really been consistent. I had started a YouTube channel and was submitting myself for America's Got Talent and all these different talent shows. And so I really wanted to come to LA to see what the music industry was like, because at that time there wasn't really much of, recording studios or anything like that going on Guam, which I think it's started, a little bit more now, but back then there really wasn't anything. So I was 13, came to LA, we didn't know anybody and didn't really know where to begin. And so I was here for a summer and I started taking dance classes here or there or acting classes here or there and a couple of voice lessons, but they were so expensive. We really couldn't keep up with all these things that all these kids, they're in training and there's all these different things they're doing. And so I would take, little handfuls of classes here and there. And then one day I was eating at Urth Cafe, which is the super famous restaurant on Melrose Avenue. And a producer's wife came over to me and asked if I happened to be a singer. And it turned out this was one of Babyface's producers. And so I ended up meeting with them and, kind of going through the motions. And I actually remember we had taken a couple meetings and I went back home. And I think I had gone home for, maybe it was the holidays or something, but I remember them writing being like, no, you have to come back. So came back to LA, ended up signing my first production deal with them. And that was where I learned the ropes of writing and recording in a studio. And
so this was with Babyface's group?
Yes. And
13, 14?
Yeah, I was 13. And I did that for about a year and the production deal ended. And I didn't really know, at that point I was like, okay, well, do we just go home now? But I had a couple friends at that time and they made music and they were like, well, why don't you stay and you can make music with us, while you kind of feel it out. And during that period, I was introduced to Nick Knack, who's a music producer. And we really had amazing creative chemistry. And so we started going in the studio, all day, all night, every day. And we made so many bodies of music and we released EPs and the Drake cover, which ended up becoming very popular.
I want to hear that whole story because I know that's a good one. But before you go on, I don't know if you know this, but you're almost at 1 billion cumulative YouTube views.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. And
That's-
and if
yeah.
these numbers are correct, you had your top TikTok video has gotten over 700 million views.
What the hell?
If it's correct, I don't know. But
That's
so anyway, not to
crazy.
get you off track, but so you were young, you were 14, 15 doing this, and then the
Yeah.
Drake cover that, I don't want to skip ahead, but
Yeah, no,
good
so
story.
around the time I met Nick, I was maybe like 16 or 17, maybe 17. I'm so bad with time, so fact check me, but I think it was around that time when we met, we made the Drake cover and put it out, and it kind of went viral, and then major labels started calling, which it really was never my intention to sign to a major label. I kind of always had this independent mindset, and I think that just came from like the guerrilla style, like
Right.
from the beginning. But I ended up taking the meetings out of, respect, and I thought it would be good to kind of hear everybody out, and ended up signing to Interscope, and I was there for like 5 or 6 years. And then I wanted to go independent, so went back independent, and then had a brief time at Republic right before the pandemic, but back independent.
So we'll talk a bit about independent versus major, but
Mhm.
you didn't tell the story, but anybody who looks past is going to find a story of you having dinner one night and being asked
Yeah.
to sing a cover. So could you tell that story? I've never heard you tell it.
It's so interesting because I feel like that table, like that whole situation is like so interesting to people, and it's so um it really affects people till this day, and I don't really know why. Like people have such strong opinions about it, but yeah, no, pretty much I had recorded the cover, and it was out, and it was going viral, and so yeah, Kanye knew that I had put it out, and in the middle of dinner, he just like called me out and was like, sing it for Drake. And then I did. And yeah,
All
and
right.
now
All right.
people
But let's
still,
back up. How did you end up at dinner with Kanye and Drake? I mean, you say that like it's normal, but for 99% of us, that would never happen.
at the time I was kind of I just was kind of in a certain friend group,
Yeah.
and, you know, the dinner was just kind of like a very casual, just regular, night that
And it was
happened.
unplanned that you were going to sing.
It was unplanned. I mean, I did not know that that was going to happen. I don't know anyone else's intentions, but like I did not know that that was going to happen,
So
and was
so you
very much,
sang his song to him.
yes, yes. And I think I must have been 16 at that time. Super caught off guard, but of course, wanted to do my best. And so, you do the best you can do in the middle of dinner, and you're called out, but it, yeah, I guess it's having its impact today.
At the time, was it did it seem like a really big thing at the time, or looking back, do you realize, wow, that really was unique?
I guess looking back, I can see why people are so interested in it. But no, I never really thought much of it. Like even till this day, it doesn't really like affect me in that way. Like people think it's like, oh my God, like look at it,
Yeah, yeah.
everyone has the funniest reactions. Like if you look at every different person at the table, and I've seen all the videos and everyone reenacting it and all the stuff, but I didn't really think anything of it at the time. And I still like,
Yeah, yeah, I
I don't know.
understand.
I don't even, yeah.
Well, you're very humble, but it's still a pretty cool story.
No, it is cool. And, when I look back and like see myself as that 16-year-old girl, it's like I had no idea how many lessons I was going to learn. And I came here because I love music and I love performing. And I don't really, now I'm so conditioned in the industry, and I've like experienced so much. But at that time, like I was still so young and had so much to learn. Although I had gone through a lot of stuff already in the industry, like I was really still naive at that point. And so I've learned a lot since then.
Yeah, yeah. So you came to Los Angeles with your mom, is that right?
Yes.
And that that was a pretty big step.
Well, we did not ever intend on staying.
I see.
So, it was kind of just like, yeah, we'll go for the summer. And, I was still doing school online, and it was like, okay, if you keep your grades up, and then you can stay. And we had a really tight budget, and, it was just supposed to be like a couple month thing, but then when I signed a Babyface, it was kind of like, okay, well, now she signed. So we were all kind of going back and forth. And, for so long, it was like, I'm going to go home. Like, I'm going back to Guam at some point. And I've just kind of stayed as long as I was working. And now it's all this time has gone by, and it's wild to like think, we came for summer and all this happened.
As I look at things now, if we look at some of the statistics you reach, it's between 15 and 20 million uniques. It's a big number.
Crazy. Well, it's so amazing what social media can do. And I think, my older sister Candace is who had started my YouTube channel back when we were still on Guam. And if it wasn't for social media, I don't know if I ever would have really come to LA and really pushed the issue with my parents, because seeing people viewing the videos and commenting on the videos and kind of like giving you that like check mark, like, okay, like you're not just kind of chasing this thing that you maybe isn't meant for you, like I had kind of the social media validation to be like, okay, you're good at this, people are interested in this could be a thing. And so grateful for it, and streaming and everything.
You're being again humble, but you could teach a master class in social media. So I'm going to ask you to do a little bit of that now. So let's just take Instagram. You've got about 10 million followers, and you've just released a book, and there's music coming. So as you sit back and look at TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and all the various channels, walk me through how you release your book, for example. I know it's a little bit different because there's a publisher involved, but maybe a little more to if it was music. Just how do you look at promoting? And
yeah, I think this is a really good question, specifically for the book, because social media was another one of those reasons why I took it seriously and ended up finishing writing the book and going and trying to get it published, because I started the book in the beginning of the pandemic on a site called Wattpad, which is a very famous site. Anybody in the world can upload their books. You can go chapter by chapter. You can upload your full book, and people can like and comment on your book. And so this is kind of one of the things where, like, I've always loved social media ever since I was little. I was on Keek, on TikTok, Instagram, all the YouTube, all the things, Facebook. And so Wattpad was kind of like another way of social media to explore a new lane, connect with people, build an audience and a fan base. It's, music has been there from the beginning, but writing a book was something totally new. And I didn't know if any of my current audience would cross over into that. And so when I thought of Wattpad, it's like, okay, this is like a place where readers go and, get to engage online. So that's kind of where it started. And then, in the releasing process, I kind of just like really try to do things organically, and, would just like post like on my Instagram stories or TikTok, make TikToks kind of updating people on what's going on. But I don't really have like a planned out strategy when it comes to all that. I kind of just try to wing it.
But you have a very one-on-one connection, I think, with the audience, more so than many.
Yeah, I try to, when I see people supporting my music or even buying the book, I think it's really important to be gracious and like give gratitude to people that are supporting you, because like in this industry, you don't have a career if you don't have a fan base that's supporting you. So really all the success and all the things that, come with trying to be a singer, it all comes back to, are people supporting you? And, being an independent artist, it's like very important that your audience is engaged and you're connecting with them and you're on the same page. So, with social media, I try to give them BTS on little things that are going on in my life, or tell them what's going on with music, or take them behind the scenes to the studio, or, and I think that's a fun part of the book. Like, although it's fictional, there are little pieces that are versions of, my life that I gave to the character. And, I think it's important to them to feel included, and because they're a huge part of why any of this is possible.
Certainly. And so the book's been out about a week.
Yes.
And I had the pleasure of seeing you release at Barnes and Noble a week back.
Yes.
And I noticed just how engaged your fans are, and how there was a feeling of, one-on-one connection, as I mentioned. What are you seeing so far sales-wise? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but I would expect, given the reach you have, that it must look pretty good.
I actually like don't know. So like the publishing world is so interesting to me. Like in music, everything is very like, um, you kind of have to like immerse yourself to like get things done. In publishing, it's so nice because you have this team of people that all really stick to the schedule and kind of handle things for you. So you really get to focus on the creativity of it all. So I don't know what the numbers are, but I did get an email saying that it's selling very well. I don't really know what very well means, but I went to Target earlier. I've been going to all the Barnes and
I
Nobles and
saw.
all the Targets and signing, and it was sold out at Target. So,
Congrats.
and I went to a Barnes and Noble the other day, and the sales associate told me, oh, I recognize this cover already. So many people have come in to buy it. Like, this is our last copy. We had to put in another order. So I think it's all good things, but I don't really know.
Does it feel different to have somebody buy your book versus your music?
It's different because with music, in my experience, it's so much of like a streaming platform. And so, if you pay for Spotify monthly or whatever it is, it's like kind of anyone can, you can listen to anything. But with the book, I think it's really cool because people are going out to the stores and picking it up. And so it's a little bit different. But seeing anybody's consuming and enjoying any of my products, I guess if you want to call it that, makes me really happy.
So let's talk about music versus publishing. I heard you answer a question where you kindly alluded to the two industries being very different and
Mhm.
perhaps being treated better in one
Yeah.
versus the other. Is that fair?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm having a unique experience in the publishing world because I'm just really fortunate, like with my team. But, from what I've heard talking to other authors, they're like, no, it is a really great industry to be in because I think for the most part, everyone's pretty nice. But yeah, music's just a different game, it's kind of an anything goes type of situation. And, I feel like on the outside, in certain scenarios, it can kind of look like a very unified front, but it does not feel like that.
Mhm.
And so I think the feeling for me, at least in my experience, are polar opposites.
Well, then may this be the first in a long series of books.
Yes, I
Yeah.
hope so. But I love creating, music and books equally. So I think, that's kind of what overpowers all of it for me is like, if I'm still happy and feeling good making music or writing books, like I'm going to continue and I don't focus on the outside extra stuff that's going on. Like I really have such a big family and I have a good group of friends and like I don't it's one of the lessons that I've learned is like you've got to have thick skin and adapt quickly to situations.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So music you're now releasing independently on your own label, correct?
Well, I will be for this next body of work, I'm going to partner with a distributor, but yes, technically independent. So I make all the
So
decisions.
is
I
that your
control.
imprint or?
It's my imprint with a distributor. So yeah,
Mhm. So you have a lot of control, both creatively and
complete control.
distribution wise.
Yeah.
So I suspect that's a lot different than when you're with Interscope or whoever.
Yeah, I think like when I was on Interscope, it was also a long time ago. And I feel like the industry has changed so
Sure.
much since then. But yes, you know, I don't have to fight for the music that I want to be released. When you're
Mhm.
independent, you can kind of choose what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us about the book.
Where do
The
I begin? It's called Sand Sequins and Silicone. I have a copy here.
Yes, and I want you to read something if you don't mind, but
Yes.
let's hear the story first.
It's a romance set in Hollywood, and it kind of gives you a little bit of insight as to what the industry is like and life here is like, and friendships and ex-best friends, and you know what finding love is like here in the industry. But it's mainly a romance, semi-autobiographical, but it is fictional, and yeah, it's
And
just juicy romance
yeah, so let's hear a little bit.
set in Hollywood. Okay, I picked out this one section at the beginning of the book. I didn't want to give any spoilers, but this kind of like nods to our whole discussion about the industry in Hollywood. Okay, here we go. This is my first time reading an excerpt of the book.
Well, I'm
So
honored.
People think that in Hollywood, you're handed everything on a plate and everything is glitz and glamour without any hardships. But when you fought for your voice like I have, you know that couldn't be further from the truth. And even if, like me, you work hard, put in the hours, and sacrifice your whole entire comfort zone, at the end of the day, if luck isn't on your side, you're left in the dark while someone else takes the spotlight. Not to mention, I have zero nepotism as an advantage. I have gained all my success completely on my own. Glittering moments like these, screaming fans like these, you can't take them for granted, and I never, ever would.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell us this then. The main character's name is Princess.
Princess, yeah.
And I know that you're not going by Princess Piamia anymore, but you'd have to wonder.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, please.
Well, I gave her pieces of myself, and I also like the name Princess because I feel like you're immediately having an opinion on like, okay, well, her life's, perfect and she gets everything on a silver platter, and kind of gives you this initial impression of her, which is really, there's so much more to it. And I think everyone, no matter what industry you're in, there's a lot of the similar things that we all go through. And so I think I just tried to give a very realistic version of life here. And I did want to include little special things like, her name ties back to me, and certain things that she goes through are versions of what I've been through. But I think it's only natural. Like, when you're writing music, it's all about your life. And so when I was writing the book, I wanted it to be an escape and something different. But I think it was really fun to be able to kind of put a couple of Easter eggs of things that were from my life. Yeah.
So at Barnes and Noble last week, you were interviewed by another author.
Yes. And my publisher, Anna Todd.
Who also wrote a movie or two that you were in as well, right?
Yes. And Anna started writing those books on Wattpad. So when I met Anna and was part of the after movies, that was kind of like my first introduction to Wattpad. I had never heard of it before.
So you have a great mentor and a model.
Yes.
And a monster social media following. So
yeah.
I'd like to talk with you a bit about, the business of, because I know that you do different sorts of promotions, and without getting, too deep into your business, just, can you talk to me about the power of social media? And, you've got, let's say your footprint, let's just use Instagram, 10 million followers.
Mm-hmm.
How do you use that to get brand partnerships? And again, without getting too deep into your business, what sort of numbers? I mean, I know you can make a heck of a lot of money with the right partnership. So how do you look at that, and just, anything you want to share?
When it comes to like branding and social media and making money online, I love that being independent, you have a source of income that you can use to fund whatever it is that your business is. And I think, that comes back to the support of the audience. And so, you know, just really quickly though, to touch on Anna, I think it was really important to me, and one of the reasons why I really wanted to work with her is because I think she and I have experienced kind of different, because we're in different worlds, but similar things career-wise. And so I thought it was really cool to work with someone who really values the artist or the creative and values their vision and wants to kind of fight for and help support what that person wants to do. And I think it's such a struggle for so many artists to, you like make all this music and you sign to a major label, and a lot of times it's like 360, like, okay, we want to change everything about you, and you're just so confused because you're like, wait, I thought you signed me because you like what I'm doing and this fan base I've built and the momentum I've created on all this stuff. So anyway, but to go back to like how you sort out branding and things like that, I think it's important to be authentic. I think it's important to align with companies that you actually like, or you actually use the product. And I think these days too, because social media is so saturated and we're all online on every social media looking at everyone all day long, I think it's really easy to tell when people are doing something for a bag versus doing something because they really like it. And so we're really lucky to be able to have social media and kind of have that control over your path and who you want to partner with and all of that.
So what's next? You've already started working on the second book or thinking about it?
Yes. You know, so much is like going on. It's crazy because like there have been the last few years, it feels like nothing is happening and you feel so like, oh my God, like I need to leave, like I need to go home now. And then it all comes crashing down and happening at one time. So the book's out. I'm like finalizing all the music stuff and starting to write some more. So things are kind of busy right now and just got to keep the momentum going. And I think doing things that you genuinely like are going to lead you on the right path. So I try to really do that.
Do you find that you get a better response from one platform versus another, higher engagement? I mean, the Spotify numbers I mentioned to you, I think before we started recording, I mean, 2.5 million monthly listeners, but the engagement rate is almost 80%, 78%.
Mhm.
That's impressive. 78% of your followers are listening to you every month.
No, that's crazy. I think, yeah, every social media is a little bit different in terms of like engagement or like how it is, I guess. And I go through phases of like what social media platform I prefer. Um, right now I'm like really into TikTok. Like I prefer going live on TikTok versus Instagram, but it's always changing and it really just depends on like what the algorithm is doing right now and
So
what I'm
tell me
trying.
why. Why right now TikTok instead of Instagram?
I feel like lately the community on TikTok is nicer and uh so I kind of just like tend to go on there more. I feel like Instagram has more trolls sometimes. But I still go live on both.
And so the negative feedback you actually feel and see.
I don't really feel it because I've just been in it for so long, like I just don't care.
Mhm.
But if I'm gonna go on live, I want to be able to find the people and respond to people that like are being nice and like actually want to watch the live. So I think that's easier to see on TikTok versus like Instagram sometimes kind of like you can miss the comments come in so fast and then you can miss kind of like the real followers or the real people that want to engage. So
Mhm.
TikTok's kind of like easy. You can just,
Mhm.
yeah. So it's smoother, at least right now.
Mhm.
But
Is there
I don't even know why. I don't know why it's like that.
but it's perceptible. It's,
I can tell, yeah.
yeah. And is Facebook even a player anymore?
I think so. I think so. For these couple of live book signings that I've done, we've linked them through Facebook. And so I think there is definitely an active community on there for sure.
Mhm. And YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube is always, I feel like, going to be a player.
Yeah, I mean, your numbers there are big.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where I started too. So I think I'll always keep my YouTube channel going.
Is there a dream brand partnership you'd like?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or
Dream brand. I'm trying to think of like an honest, real good answer. I don't even know if
or
I have one.
a different vertical market, maybe something you haven't been in that would be interesting?
I'm trying to think. I'm like, what haven't I done?
Well,
I would really, for a long time, I've been developing beauty products. And so I don't know if it would be a collab or if it would be me launching my own thing, but that is like something I would really like to expand in that space.
interesting.
But I'm open, I don't have any specific brands to name drop, I guess.
So you can't tell us when you're releasing, but you're releasing new music. And I know I heard
Yeah.
you say offline you have hundreds of tracks in the
Yeah.
vault.
Oh, I mean, over the years, yeah. Like the other day, I was going through my Dropbox and just like organizing everything. And I'm like, I can't even hear some of these songs because it just makes me so sad sometimes to like think back on like, I don't know if you feel like that, but certain songs, you can hear them and just
For
it
sure.
instantly takes you back to whatever was going on at that time. But oh, yeah, like over the years, there's just so many bodies of work that were put together that never came out. But finally, being independent and having that control and sorting everything out, there will be a body of work soon.
So tell me how you write music. What's what's your process?
Always different.
Mhm.
I really like to find if I'm making a body of work, which is kind of always like what the goal is. Um, I like to find kind of just like a group of people that I'm going to consistently be in with. It's a little bit hard when you're jumping around to different groups and having to re-explain yourself or like meet somebody new for the first time. And you kind of need to like create this relationship, you know, to be able to make the best music, at least in my case. So sometimes we go in and we don't have anything and we kind of just talk for a while and they'll start producing and then we start thinking melody ideas and then start writing. And sometimes I go in and I have the title of the song. With Do It Again, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with that song, and I kind of went in and pitched the idea to Nick and Mark, and they kind of helped me shape it and bring it to life. But sometimes you also get songs that are done and you're like, I love this song, but I want to kind of tailor it to me. And so you can go in and you can rewrite it. I really don't have any hard lines on what I will and won't do, like as far as finding songs and cutting them and recording them, because, I say this all the time, we all go through very similar things. And so I love to write music, but if there's a song that is presented to me and I really feel like I connect with it, then I will absolutely cut it.
Now, Do It Again, you said you had a plan and it went platinum, right?
Yeah, Do It Again is multi-platinum. It was a huge success. And what's funny is no one wanted to put that song out. We did, like us, me, Nick, and Mark did, but I had to fight for a year to get that song out. And I remember I had gone home for the holidays and J Bug, who's a very famous artist, was performing. And I heard his song, Let's Do It Again. And I was so inspired by this song. And I really wanted to sample it and make my own song that kind of used this part of his song. And so when I came back to the States, I remember just like needing to go to Nick's house and like tell them what we were doing. And so we made the song in his garage and got Chris and Tyga on it. And the label didn't want to put it out for a year.
And
And
did your life change dramatically after it came out? Did you
yeah.
get more party invites, more, what changed?
Oh yeah. Anytime you're having success, everyone loves you, which I will say is something I'm so grateful for. Even it was rocky. Like I had ups and downs before Do It Again, but everything was very drastic after that. And I think like all in all, the career was kind of like on this uphill path, and there were bumps, but nothing like too crazy had happened. And so when the success of Do It Again was happening, I was like, oh, like, I've just built these relationships and, they're just getting stronger and people are just, everyone loves you when you're hot. And
Right.
then when they think you're not, everything comes crashing down. And I think you can feel really disposable. And so I'm so grateful that I had that kind of like peak of success and then was able to see kind of who really
Your
cared about
friends.
me or who really were the friend. Yeah, because, you know, over the years I've had so many ups and downs and so many peaks, and it's like people just come out of the woodwork and they really have no shame, and it's just like, oh no, we love you now. Oh no, 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 we can't associate with you. And it's so hot and cold. And I think without that, I really wouldn't have known who
Good
actually,
lesson early on,
yeah,
early-ish. You've been here a
yeah,
long time. So let's talk about that. So that was released when? 2018, 16,
17, I think,
17.
16 or 17, I think.
Okay. So you were still young,
Yeah,
19,
I think it
20,
was
21. Oh,
18, 19,
18.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then at some point you realized, wow, not everybody really cares about me.
Well,
And
first
Mhm.
I was really stunned at how hard I had to work to get the song out. But yeah, then once it finally came out.
All right. So then you're here in LA and you get to see both the good and the bad.
Mhm,
Um, Now you're from Guam, and most of us don't know a lot about Guam. So
mhm.
maybe tell me how many people live on the island, and you have a big family, yes?
Yeah, so Guam is a very small island. It's a US territory, but it's all the way out in the Pacific Ocean, 3 hours from Japan.
Yeah.
So if you look it up on a map, it's very small. I think our population is around 170,000. And yeah, I was born and raised and grew up on Guam. And since coming to LA, we all still go back and forth.
Yeah. Okay, so 170,000 people, which is basically the number of people that live between where I'm sitting and you're sitting.
Crazy.
And so I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask. When you go home, you know,
Mhm.
the locals are very proud of you, yes?
Oh yeah. And it was like social media and everyone on island being so supportive that really pushed me to come to LA. So every time I go home, you know, it's a very warm welcome. And I always feel like LA is kind of home, but Guam is really where I feel most at home. And yeah, I love, you know, I've gone home and done a couple shows. I just did one in January and it was so
I
nice
saw.
to see
Yeah.
everybody come out. And, you know, I'm really lucky to be from such a great place where people are so outwardly supportive.
Yeah. And, you know, it's been a pleasure. I've known you and your family for, I don't know, 5, 6 years now. And
Crazy.
yeah, and I'm just very impressed by the way you handle yourself and the way you built your business. And, you know, if there's anything else you want to share about the business side of things, you know, I'd love to hear it.
I think it's just really important for anyone in the business to be really familiar with contracts. And I think that's something that my dad and my parents, you know, really taught me coming into the business. I was so young, but they always were like, even if you don't understand it now, just start, you know, you got to read through your contracts and be familiar with it. And that's the most important thing, you know, just try to be as smart and make the best decisions you can with, you know, when it comes to that.
Thank you. P, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Tom. This was so fun.
Yes, it was.